Before the universe existed, before time itself, there was nothing. Then came a spark, the Big Bang, an explosion that occurred 13.8 billion years ago. From that original chaos, 6 fundamental building blocks of the universe were forged: time, space, reality, soul, mind, and power. Each became embodied in a crystal that would later be known as an infinity stone. These 6 stones drifted through the empty expanse of space, silent signs of everything that would come to exist. In that same cosmic breath, the first ancient life forms emerged, the Celestials, massive cosmic beings. The first among them, Arishem, created the first star and spread light throughout the universe billions of years in the past. Their sole purpose was to keep life going. Each celestial grows within the core of a livable planet, and upon birth, spreads life by destroying the world that carried it, a cosmic sacrifice designed to enable the birth of thousands of other systems. Through this process, millions of solar systems were born, composed of planets including the 9 realms connected by the cosmic tree Yggdrasil. Among them, Midgard, Earth, and Asgard, the legendary realm of gods and light. As the Celestials continued their work across the cosmos, they faced a problem. The civilizations they needed to grow were being wiped out by dangerous predators before they could fully develop. These worlds required protection, populations that could grow large enough to feed the celestial seed growing in the planet's core. So the Celestials created a solution: the Deviants, creatures designed specifically to hunt down and eliminate these dangerous predators, clearing the way for intelligent life to thrive. But their creation backfired. The Deviants evolved far too quickly, adapting and changing with each generation. They became uncontrollable, violent, and soon posed the very same threat they were meant to eliminate. The Protectors had become the Predators. To control this chaos, the Celestials created a second wave of beings, the Eternals. Unlike the Deviants who evolved unpredictably, the Eternals were designed to be stable, unchanging, and loyal. These immortal protectors were tasked with hunting down the Deviants and safeguarding the developing civilizations across countless worlds. In Asgard's ancient history, spanning back millions of years, legend tells that the realm instantly destroyed the celestial seed that rested within it, breaking free from the cycle that bound so many other worlds. 2.5 million years before our era, a vibranium meteorite crashed in East Africa. Its radiation altered the local flora and gave birth to an essential plant, the heart-shaped herb. The land remained untouched for eons, its power dormant and waiting. It would be thousands of years before 5 tribes finally settled on this blessed territory: the river, the border, the merchant, the mining, and the Jabari. These tribes lived separately, each with their own ways and territories. Among them rose a warrior named Bashenga, who by ingesting the heart-shaped herb, gained superhuman abilities and became the very first Black Panther. With this power, he unified the scattered tribes into one nation, Wakanda. As humanity continued to develop and spread, certain ancient peoples discovered magic and worked to master it. Agamotto became the first sorcerer supreme and founded the Masters of the Mystic Arts. During his research, he discovered a crystal, the Time Stone, which he placed inside an artifact designed to control its power, the Eye of Agamotto. With the discovery of magic came the realization that Earth was open to mystical threats from other dimensions and dark forces beyond human understanding. To protect Earth from these dangers, Agamotto built 3 sanctums, one in New York, another in London, and the last in Hong Kong. But from light, darkness is always born. The 3 Mon Cathon was the first to awaken. He built a temple where he carved his most dark and evil spells. Among them, a prophecy, that of the Scarlet Witch, a being who will either rule or end the multiverse. From his work was born a forbidden book, the Darkhold, a book of dark magic capable of corrupting anyone who studies it. In a neighboring dimension, separated from our world by a mystical veil, another threat emerged: the Dweller in Darkness, a demonic entity that devoured the souls of the living. The devastated populations united under the protection of the Great Protector, an ancestral dragon who guided them to push the creature behind the Dark Gate. Around this sacred barrier rose Ta Lo, a refuge city and sanctuary of peace. In 5000 BC saw the arrival of a new Eternal squad on Earth, sent by Arishem himself. The team consisted of Ajax, Icarus, Sersi, Thena, Gilgamesh, Kingo, Phastos, Makari, Druig, and Sprite, who traveled in a vessel called the Domo. Arishem gave them a specific objective: Get Earth ready for Tiamat's awakening, the celestial who lay dormant in the planet's center. Throughout the following centuries, these Eternals moved across different regions, defending humans against deviant attacks while also influencing how societies developed. Their actions inspired countless myths, and they even turned the city of Babylon into a military stronghold. As civilization began to take shape, history started to be recorded. 2988 BCE marked a rare astronomical event. The Nine Realms came into alignment across the cosmos. This alignment created an opportunity that Malekith, who ruled the Dark Elves, tried to exploit. His plan involved the Ether, which was actually the reality stone in its liquid state, and he wanted to use it to cover the universe in permanent darkness. Bor, who was Odin's father at the time, stopped Malekith's plan and concealed the Ether in a location between dimensions where nobody could access it. Quick shout out to one of my followers who caught something I missed in part 1. They pointed out that before the Big Bang, before there was anything, the universe existed in total darkness. The Dark Elves, led by Malekith, actually lived in this primordial void. They thrived in it. Then the Big Bang happened, flooding the universe with light and creating everything we know. To the Dark Elves, this wasn't creation, it was destruction. That's why Malekith wanted to use the Ether to plunge the universe back into darkness during the Convergence in 2988 BC. Time moved on, and eventually Odin claimed the throne of Asgard. One of his first acts as king was commissioning Mjolnir, the legendary hammer, which was crafted at Nidavellir using power drawn from a collapsing star. This weapon went to Hela, his daughter who held dominion over death itself. The two of them launched campaigns across the Nine Realms, building Asgard's empire through brutal military conquest. Eventually, Odin grew weary of endless warfare and wanted to pursue peace instead. Hela refused to stop fighting. This disagreement escalated into open combat between them. The Valkyries, who served as Asgard's most skilled fighting force, were nearly wiped out during this conflict. Odin couldn't bring himself to take his daughter's life, so instead he imprisoned her in Hel, Asgard's underworld, where she would stay locked away for as long as he remained alive. Around 1260 BC, Wakanda had grown into a secret power, hidden from the world but watching it carefully. The Hatut-Zaraze, the war dogs of Wakanda, were its secret operatives, sent on covert missions across the globe to protect Wakandan interests and retrieve stolen vibranium. Their first recorded mission involved Noni, a former member of the Dora Milaje, Wakanda's elite female warriors. She infiltrated the underwater complex of Nikati, a Wakandan dissident who had stolen advanced technology and vibranium to found her own nation, one that would use Wakanda's secrets for conquest. Noni succeeded in defeating Nikati and recovering the stolen resources. After completing her mission, she chose to leave the Dora Milaje and joined the Hatut-Zaraze permanently, becoming one of Wakanda's first spies in the outside world. In 1200 BC, during the legendary Trojan War, another Hatut-Zaraze named Bucky received his mission. A vibranium necklace had been stolen and traced to Troy, in the possession of Helen of Troy herself. Bucky infiltrated the Greek army under the false identity of Memnon, claiming to be an Ethiopian warrior. He fought alongside the legendary warrior Achilles for 9 years, earning his deep trust and brotherhood. When the Greeks constructed the famous Trojan horse, Bucky was among those who hid inside and infiltrated the city. Inside Troy's walls, he located the stolen vibranium necklace around Helen's neck. He recovered it, and since that was his only objective, allowed Helen and Paris to escape the doomed city. But Achilles witnessed this, and seeing his trusted brother help the enemy escape, believed Bucky had been a Trojan spy all along. Heartbroken and enraged by this perceived betrayal, Achilles attacked. Bucky tried to reason with him, tried to explain, but Achilles was too blinded by anger and pain to listen. In the fight that followed, Bucky was forced to deliver a fatal blow, cutting Achilles' heel, the strike that would inspire the famous myth. As Achilles lay dying, asking if everything between them had been a lie, Bucky could only say, "Not everything," with tears in his eyes. He placed coins on Achilles' eyes according to Greek tradition and returned to Wakanda. But the burden of ending his brother in arms was too great. Unable to face what he had done, unable to remain in Wakanda with that guilt, he demanded to immediately return to the field and left his homeland behind. Around the year 0, in a mystical city that existed outside normal space and time, 5 monks committed a grave act. Kunlun was one of the 7 capital cities of heaven, hidden realms that only appeared on Earth once every 15 years. Within Kunlun's walls, monks studied and mastered Qi, the life force energy that flows through all living things. But 5 of these monks, Alexandra Reed, Madame Gao, Bakuto, Murakami, and Sawande, learned forbidden ways to twist Qi and use it as a weapon. When they were caught, they were kicked out of Kunlun forever, sent away into the mortal world. Rather than accept their exile in shame, they banded together and used what they learned to found the Hand, a worldwide network that would spread across continents. They discovered a way to use Qi to extend their lives forever through a substance they called the Resurrection Elixir, though each revival cost them more of their humanity. To counter this growing darkness and protect the world from the Hand's influence, Kunlun formed an army of defenders. Every generation, a warrior was chosen to face the dragon Shao Lao the Undying. Those who beat the dragon and put their fists into its burning heart gained its power, the ability to channel pure Qi into their fist, turning it into an iron weapon of incredible force. This champion was called the Iron Fist, Kunlun's immortal weapon, tasked with hunting down the Hand wherever they appeared and protecting Earth from mystical threats. Around the year 400 AD, in India, 2 of the Eternals found something their creators never intended: love. Icarus and Sersi, after centuries of fighting together, married according to the rites of the Gupta Empire, celebrating their union as husband and wife. For immortal beings created only to serve, this was an act of beautiful rebellion, choosing their own happiness over their mission. During this same period, centuries after Agamotto's time, a new leader was needed for the masters of the mystic arts. Remember, Agamotto had founded this order to protect Earth from mystical threats and had established the title of Sorcerer Supreme, the most powerful sorcerer and Earth's primary defender against dark magic and dimensional invaders. Now, a new Sorcerer Supreme was appointed to carry on this sacred duty, the one who would be called the Ancient One. She proved to be exceptionally powerful and wise, but also pragmatic. Knowing that Earth would need her protection for centuries to come, and seeing that her natural lifespan was far too short, she made a terrible choice. To extend her life beyond what was possible, this sorcerer drew upon forbidden magic from the dark dimension, the very realm of Dormammu, a being of pure evil that sought to consume all reality. She knew it was wrong, knew it contradicted everything she taught her students, but she justified it as necessary. After all, how could she protect Earth if she wasn't alive to do so? This hypocrisy would haunt her for centuries. During the Middle Ages, somewhere in China, a warrior named Xu Wenwu stumbled upon a discovery that would change history. He found the 10 Rings, 10 mysterious artifacts of unknown origin. No one knew who made them, where they came from, or what they truly were. They granted him exceptional longevity, allowing him to live for 1,000 years without aging. They also gave him terrifying power in combat, making him nearly invincible. Around these rings, Xu Wenwu built an empire. He founded a powerful network that would simply bear their name, the 10 Rings. For centuries, he would operate in the shadows, pulling strings in kingdoms, toppling empires, and shaping human history from behind the scenes. In 965 AD, winter came early to Norway, but this wasn't natural winter. The frost giants of Jotunheim, one of the 9 realms, invaded the village of Tonsberg with an army of ice and cold. Their goal was to freeze the entire Earth using the Casket of Ancient Winters, an artifact of immense power that could plunge the world into an eternal ice age, making it suitable for their kind. Odin, who had sworn to protect Midgard, intervened with the full might of Asgard's army. The battle was fierce and terrible. Odin led his warriors against the giants and managed to repel the invasion, but the cost was high. He recovered the casket and brought it back to Asgard for safekeeping, but he lost his eye in the battle, a permanent reminder of the price of protection. On the battlefield, among the ice, Odin discovered something unexpected: an abandoned infant, small and weak, left to freeze in the cold. This was Loki, son of Laufey, king of the frost giants. Rather than leave the child to die or raise him as a hostage, Odin made a compassionate choice. He decided to adopt Loki and raise him as his own son, as a true prince of Asgard, hoping to one day unite Asgard and Jotunheim through this child. Loki grew up alongside Thor, Odin's biological son, never knowing the truth of his heritage. The 2 boys were raised as brothers, though they could not have been more different. While in Tonsberg, Odin also hid another artifact of cosmic importance, the Tesseract, a cube-shaped container housing the Space Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. The Asgardians had used the Space Stone's power to develop the Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge technology that allowed them to travel instantly between the 9 realms. Odin hid it on Earth, perhaps because he knew its power was too great to keep in one place, or perhaps because Earth would one day need its protection. In 1400 AD, Wakandan intelligence discovered that a statue containing vibranium had been stolen and taken to Kunlun, the mystical city that appeared on Earth only once every 15 years. A Wakandan agent named Basha received his orders: infiltrate Kunlun during its appearance, locate the statue, and return it to Wakanda. Basha successfully entered the hidden city and began his mission. During his time there, he was injured and was cared for by a kind woman named Jirani. He located the statue, but as he attempted to leave Kunlun with it, Jirani followed him. She revealed the truth. She was an Iron Fist, one of Kunlun's greatest warriors, capable of channeling chi. But rather than fight him, she offered to help. She used her power to extract the vibranium from the statue without damaging it, allowing both nations to keep what mattered to them. Basha and his superior chose to conceal this incident from Wakanda's council, knowing that revealing Kunlun's location and the existence of the Iron Fist could complicate relations between the 2 secret nations. They helped Jirani secretly return to Kunlun before the city disappeared again for another 15 years. In 1521, the Eternals gathered and realized something profound. The last of the Deviants had been eliminated. Their mission, the purpose they had been following for thousands of years, was complete. But as they watched the arrival of Spanish conquistadors and witnessed the fall of the Aztec Empire, as they saw the atrocities humans committed against each other, the enslavement, the massacre, the destruction of an entire civilization, they were forced to confront a terrible truth. Human cruelty, human violence, human capacity for evil was sometimes worse than anything the Deviants had done. And yet Arisham's orders were clear. They could eliminate Deviants, but they could not interfere in human conflicts, no matter how terrible. This realization convinced them to cease all future intervention in human affairs. They separated, each going their own way, living among human populations in secret, waiting for new orders from Arisham that they hoped would never come. They didn't know that Arisham's silence had a reason. He was waiting for Earth's population to reach the critical mass needed for Tiamat's emergence. In 1571, Spanish conquistadors reached the Yucatan Peninsula, bringing weapons, greed, and disease. They brought smallpox to the indigenous Finn tribe, a sickness for which the natives had no immunity. The tribe faced total extinction. In desperation, their shaman prepared a remedy using a local plant affected by trace amounts of vibranium in the region. The remedy worked. They survived, but there was a terrible price. The vibranium-infused plant altered their biology forever. They could no longer breathe air. Their bodies needed constant moisture, and their skin turned blue on the surface. They had survived, but the land was lost to them forever. They adapted, building a new civilization underwater. These were the first Talokanil, founders of Talokan, a hidden kingdom beneath the waves. Among them was a woman named Finn, who was pregnant when she took the remedy. She survived the transformation, but her unborn child was affected differently. She gave birth to a hybrid, an extraordinary mutant who combined the best of both worlds. He could live on the surface and in the depths. He had enhanced strength and speed. Most remarkably, he had wings at his ankles that let him swim at incredible speeds and fly through the air. When the Talokanil saw these winged feet on the newborn, they believed he was a sign from the gods, like the feathered serpent deity of their ancestors. They called him Ku'uk-Ukan. As he grew, aging far slower than any other Talokanil, his people's reverence for him deepened. They began to worship him as their god king, the living embodiment of Ku'uk-Ukan, the feathered serpent. Years passed, and though the Talokanil thrived in their underwater kingdom, Finn mourned the loss of her surface life and homeland every day. Unable to ever return to the land she loved, she lived with a grief that never healed. Eventually, she died of old age, her heart broken by the sadness of never seeing her home again. With her final breath, she made one last request: to be buried in the homeland she had been driven from. Ku'uk-Ukan, still appearing as a young man while his mother had aged naturally, led his people to the surface to honor her wish. But when they arrived at the land where their village once stood, they found it had become a plantation. Spanish colonizers had enslaved the remaining Mayan people, forcing them to work the land that had once been theirs. Enraged by the cruelty and oppression, Ku'uk-Ukan and the Talokanil attacked. They burned the plantation and ended every colonizer there. As the chaos unfolded, a dying Spanish priest cursed Ku'uk-Ukan, calling him El Niño sin amor, the child without love. Kukulkan took that curse as his name. He became Namor, because from that day forward, he had no love for the surface world. In 1693, in the town of Salem, Massachusetts, witch hunts had reached a fever pitch. But not all witches were the same. While Agamotto had founded the Masters of the Mystic Arts to study magic for protection, and while Chthon had created dark magic for destruction, there existed other practitioners, covens of witches who followed their own ancient traditions, passing down spells and rituals through bloodlines for generations. These witches lived in secret among normal humans, hiding their powers to avoid persecution. Among these secret practitioners was Agatha Harkness, a powerful witch born into a coven led by her own mother, Evanora Harkness. Agatha had been studying beyond the boundaries they set, delving into darker, more forbidden spells. She was brought before her own coven for judgment, accused of practicing magic that went against their sacred rules. They tied Agatha to a stake to execute her, to burn away her corruption. But Agatha had learned more than they realized. As her coven channeled their magic to end her life, Agatha did something unprecedented. She reversed their spell, turning their own power against them. She absorbed not just their magic, but their life force itself, draining them completely. Every member of her coven, including her own mother, crumbled to dust. Agatha walked away from Salem more powerful than before, now possessing the combined magic of dozens of witches, but utterly alone, marked forever by what she had done. Now, let's explore the multiverse. While these events were happening on Earth 616, the main MCU timeline, countless other versions of reality existed, each with their own stories unfolding. In 1845, on Earth 10005, a sickly boy named James Howlett lay in bed in the Northwest Territories of Canada. One night, the family's groundskeeper, Thomas Logan, came home inebriated and upset, looking for James's mother. He confronted James's father, John Howlett, and in a moment of heated conflict, fatally wounded him. Young James watched his father fall and felt something awaken inside him for the first time. His mutation erupted in a wave of grief and overwhelming emotion. Bone claws emerged through the skin of his hands, breaking from between his knuckles. Without thinking, driven by pure instinct and pain, James used these claws to defend himself against Thomas Logan. But as Thomas lay there fading, he revealed a terrible truth. He was James's real father. John Howlett had raised another man's son. James's half-brother Victor Creed, Thomas's other son, witnessed everything. The two boys, both now revealed as mutants, both now marked as different, fled into the night together. They made a promise to each other. They would never leave each other's side. They would be brothers, loyal to the end. For the next century, James and Victor would fight side by side in conflict after conflict, their mutations keeping them alive through battles that would take normal men. This was the beginning of the man who would one day be known as Wolverine. In 1868, on Earth 616, something strange happened in a small house in Wisconsin. A young boy named Victor Timely was working on his inventions when a book suddenly appeared on his doorstep. He had no idea where it came from or who left it. The book was called the Time Variance Authority Official Handbook. Now, the Time Variance Authority, or TVA for short for those who don't know, is an organization that exists outside of normal time and space. Think of it as a cosmic police force that monitors every timeline in the multiverse, making sure time flows the way it's supposed to. Let me explain what that means. In the multiverse, every choice, every decision creates a branch, a new timeline splitting off from the main one. For example, if you choose to turn left instead of right, that creates a branch where you turned right. These branches, if left unchecked, multiply endlessly, creating countless different realities. The TVA's job is to prevent certain branches from forming. They do this through something called pruning. When the TVA prunes something, they're essentially erasing it from existence, removing that branch before it can grow and create problems. They use devices called reset charges that completely wipe out anything they target, as if it never existed at all. The TVA agents travel through time, finding these unauthorized branches, what they call nexus events, and eliminating them to maintain what they believe is the sacred timeline, the one true timeline that's supposed to exist. Anyone or anything that creates a branch they don't approve of gets pruned. But in 1868, this organization didn't exist yet, at least not in the way it would come to be known. The handbook that appeared on Victor's doorstep contained knowledge far beyond anything that existed in the 19th century. Diagrams of devices that wouldn't be invented for hundreds of years. Explanations of time travel, temporal mechanics, and technology that seemed like pure fantasy. Victor devoured every page. He didn't didn't know that the book had been delivered by Ravonna Renslayer. Ravonna, for people who don't know, would eventually become a high-ranking judge at the TVA, one of the most powerful figures in the organization, responsible for deciding which timelines live and which ones get erased. But at that moment in 1868, she was just an agent working directly for someone far more powerful. He Who Remains. He Who Remains was a mysterious figure who lived at the end of time itself, in a place called the Citadel at the end of time. For context, He Who Remains had won what's called the Multiversal War, a massive conflict between countless versions of the same person across different realities, all fighting for control of everything. After winning this war, He Who Remains created the TVA to prevent his other variants from ever rising up again. He controlled the flow of time across all realities, deciding which timelines were allowed to exist and which ones had to be destroyed. Now here's where it gets really interesting. He Who Remains had orchestrated the delivery of this handbook to young Victor very carefully. You see, Victor Timely wasn't just any boy. He was a variant, another version across the multiverse of the same person who would become known as Kang the Conqueror. Kang, for those unfamiliar, would become one of the most dangerous beings in existence, a time-traveling conqueror who would threaten entire realities. He Who Remains himself was also a variant of Kang, just from a different timeline, the one who won the war and chose to protect the multiverse instead of conquering it. Are you still with me? I know this is a lot, but stay focused because this next part is mind-blowing. So what He Who Remains did was create a bootstrap paradox, a time loop with no clear beginning or end. By giving young Victor this handbook, He Who Remains ensured that Victor would study the book, build advanced technology based on its knowledge, and Victor's inventions and research would eventually become the foundation for the very organization, the TVA, that produced the handbook in the first place. The TVA would write the handbook based on technology that Victor would create, but Victor would only create that technology because he read the handbook. It's a closed loop where cause and effect circle back on themselves. Now, if all of this timeline talk and multiverse stuff is making your head spin, don't worry, you're not alone. We're going to come back to all of this and connect the dots as we go through the complete MCU timeline. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, because trust me, it all comes together in ways you won't expect. Victor had no idea he was part of this cosmic cycle, a plan designed by another version of himself to maintain control over time itself and keep the multiverse from falling into chaos. In 1896, in Wakanda, a very different kind of time travel was about to change everything. Prince Tafari, third son of the king and a trainee war dog, was sent on a mission to Ethiopia with his mentor Kuda. Their goal was simple: retrieve a vibranium axe that had been stolen and was now in the hands of outsiders. Tafari was young, ambitious, eager to prove himself and make his mark on Wakandan history. The mission took them into the middle of the First Italo-Ethiopian War, with Italian colonizers in conflict with Ethiopian forces. Despite the danger, Tafari managed to retrieve the axe. He was proud. He had succeeded where others might have failed. But as they prepared to return home, something impossible happened. A figure appeared before them, a Black Panther, but unlike any they had ever seen. This Panther wore advanced armor, wielded technology centuries beyond anything in 1896, and moved with the confidence of someone who had already lived through what was to come. She confronted them, trying to take the axe. Tafari and Kuda fought back, and together they managed to overpower her. When her mask came off, they were shocked. She was Wakandan, a woman, a queen, and she claimed to be from 500 years in the future. She told them a story that seemed like madness. In her time, in the 26th century, an alien race called the Horde, insectoid creatures that consumed entire worlds, had invaded Earth. They had taken down the Avengers, defeated the other nations, stopped Earth's heroes one by one. Only Wakanda remained, the last stronghold of humanity, because of their isolation. But isolation wasn't enough. The Horde came for Wakanda too, and without the technology and alliances that the rest of the world could have provided, Wakanda fell. The Golden City was destroyed. Her people were gone. She became the last Black Panther, the final survivor of a world that had ended. Using advanced vibranium-powered quantum technology, she had traveled back in time to this exact moment, to this exact mission. She showed them visions, the ruins of Wakanda, the Horde tearing through the city, the Dora Milaje fallen in defense of a kingdom that stood alone. She explained the truth. If Tafari and Kuda brought that axe back to Wakanda, it would remain hidden forever. But if they left it here, in Ethiopia, it would eventually end up in a British museum. And in that museum, over a century later, a man named Eric Killmonger would take it. Killmonger's actions would bring him to Wakanda. His challenge to T'Challa would force the king to confront Wakanda's isolationist policies, and in the end, T'Challa would make the choice to open Wakanda's borders, to share their technology with the world, to join the global community. That choice, the choice that came from Killmonger's actions, would save the world from the Horde. Without it, Earth would have no chance. Teferi faced an impossible decision. His mission was to bring the axe home. His duty was to Wakanda. But this woman from the future was telling him that completing his mission would doom his nation and the entire world. Before she could finish explaining, the Horde found her. Even across time, they had tracked her down. She was pulled back to her own era, forced to fight a battle she knew she couldn't win, to give Teferi and Kuda the time they needed to make the right choice. Teferi looked at Kuda, Kuda looked at the axe, and together, they made a decision that would echo through centuries. They returned to the battlefield and put the axe back where they had found it, hidden inside a clock. They left it for history to find. They didn't complete their mission, but they saved the world. Neither of them would ever know if it worked. They would return to Wakanda, report what happened, and live the rest of their lives wondering if they had made the right choice. But in 2016, in a British museum, Eric Killmonger would walk up to a glass case containing a Wakandan axe and begin the chain of events that would change everything. Teferi's choice had worked, the timeline had been set right, and the last Black Panther's dark future would never come to pass.